Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear brothers and sisters, I salute you all with the salutation of the people of paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to your program, The Choice, from me, Hatim Al Absalam. And joining me in the studio is my honorable guest, Ustad Ustad Ahmed Al Matani. How are you, Ahmed?
I'm good. Alaikum salam, first of all.
How's things?
Things are okay. How are you?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Okay, Ahmed, today we have a new episode with a new topic. But surprisingly, we had a conversation this morning.
Correct.
And we changed the topic.
Again.
At the last minute. Again. Subhanallah, we thought that this might be very, very important.
Yes.
So the topic of today is artificial education versus real education.
Mm-hmm.
Before we continue, we would like to remind our listeners that this is a live show and the show is going to be repeated in the evening at 7 p.m. and it's going to be uploaded on the SoundCloud tomorrow, inshallah. The numbers to call us are 24602058, 24602058. Please do call us if you have anything to add to the program. And Ahmed, why did we decide to change this topic at the last minute? What did we have at the beginning?
We had the topic of identity and fashion. And I think, there have been a lot of discussions touching the topic directly or indirectly in the previous episodes. So we thought maybe it would be a good idea to talk about another crucial topic that people will benefit from and people will definitely refer to it easily. And it's actually it's the talk of the season, if you want to call it. And we need to shed lights on this because if education does not serve the ultimate goal of it, then definitely education has no value.
Yes.
So we thought that education is a very important topic, and it's also one of the important things that our religion emphasizes all the time. And so we thought, yes, it would be a good idea to talk about it.
Actually, there are three things which are very important in our life, Ahmed. One is faith.
Mm-hmm.
Second is education, and the third one is healthcare.
Yeah.
So today we're specifically talking about education.
Mm-hmm.
And to start off, you give us a definition about education. What do we mean by education?
Well, there are so many definitions for education. One common definition is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. This is one way to look at it. Basically, it's knowledge that impacts or activities that impact knowledge or skills.
Yes.
And as you can see from this definition, there's not only emphasis on the idea of content or knowledge, okay, but also in terms of skills, beliefs, and habits. And this is one thing that we need to emphasize, today. That education is not about only learning content or learning knowledge, okay? It's beyond that, actually. And this is one missing element that we tend to forget when it comes to planning for educational system in this region. So we need to also emphasize, the other elements to give it, more concentration and more value.
Now, we're talking about education in the school level and in the university level. Correct. Or college level.
Yes.
Tell us about the reality of what is happening now in our colleges and in our schools, Ahmed.
Well, first of all, we want to say this from the beginning. We are not here to criticize anybody or any institutions, but we just wanted to address some of the challenges that we face when it comes to education, because education is very important to develop any nation. Okay, and we are here only to share some of the thoughts that we maybe think that are important to be addressed and to be discussed. But our ultimate goal is not to criticize or to say that we're not doing a great job. There are a lot of good things when it comes to our educational system, but we thought maybe learning from other contexts and learning from the best practice around the world, maybe we can improve the quality of education in our country, because we love Oman and we want to see Oman competing internationally, regionally, almost everywhere. And instead of sending our kids outside all the time to get the best educational degrees, we could have this honor here actually to have people coming to Oman to get certificates, degrees, training, and we'll be very proud of that. And of course, to say that Oman is a Muslim country and education has been valued in our teaching,
Yes.
as Muslims, and emphasized a lot. And a very simple way to put it is, the first verse that revealed in the Holy Quran is to read, which is a clear indication for the importance of education in Oman. I mean, in our Islamic
You said something
principle.
very important, Ahmed, is about the value of education and to have a greater goal to compete internationally and in the region.
Yeah.
And this is achievable. And the best example that we can see today in the region is Malaysia,
Correct.
where Malaysia was not on the map when it came to education. And then it transformed Malaysia into the center of education. And people from the West started coming to Malaysia
Yes.
and to get their education.
Yes,
And
not only for
all-
education, but also for develops economy and
tourism and
tourism
everything
and so
else.
on. Yeah, and so yeah,
So this is achievable, actually.
correct. It is not something that we cannot do. So coming back to your question, which is the reality of our education, I mean, it's not a bit different from what we had. I mean, we're not very old anyway, but I mean, compared to the past and what's happening now. I mean, you cannot see a huge difference in terms of what is offered
Yes.
to our kids and students, in Oman. Let's talk first of all about schools, for
Schools.
example. Okay, schools, trying their best actually to educate our kids and give them the best educational system. But we have to look at what's happening actually in reality. First of all, look at the level of graduates coming from high school. And when we talk about this, we can talk about so many things. For example, in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, and in terms of morals. Okay, because one important element when it comes to education is the idea of making sure that these people are graduating with morals and ethics.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is something that we're missing a lot. I'm working in a college, and I see a lot of graduates coming from school. Okay, and they don't have a lot of ethics, very simple ethics. Although we live in a Muslim country, although there's classes that emphasize these are these concepts or these ethics, but we don't see them communicated or translated in the way they behave, the way they talk, and so on.
Of course, we don't generalize, Ahmed.
We don't
There are
generalize.
good examples.
No, they are very good.
They are
This is
good
what-
examples, but
yeah.
the majority is
Yes.
what you have mentioned.
Yes, the general trend.
And this continues until the workforce.
Correct.
They continue and they become employees and they carry the same bad ethics that
Because
you spoke.
if you don't start from the beginning, then as we said before, there's always this possibility that you might not be able to fix what has been damaged. And I think like with everybody's effort and work and cooperation, we can achieve this. This is not something, and we are not here to say that this is only the responsibility of a specific body or organization. This is a collective effort that has to be done by every single person in the society.
There is an argument where it says that the role of the morals and upbringing, the ethics, is on the parents. And the parents say that this role is done by the school.
Yeah.
Now, where do we strike a balance between these two?
As I said, you cannot just exclude, one party from the formula. Okay, everybody has to contribute. Okay, directly and indirectly. Of course, parents have to play a very important role when it comes to morals and so on. But also schools. Okay, I mean, I'm sure that this is the case for a lot of people. We have a lot of people that we schools, teachers, headmasters, name it, people who work in the schools, that we'll remember for the rest of our lives, either because they have impacted our lives, positively or in a good sense, or the way around. Okay, so they are actually there's a huge responsibility from the school when it comes to really making sure that these morals are really emphasized, valued, and practiced. Actually,
Now,
the idea of practicing, what
what is
learn.
important, Ahmed? You mentioned there are three things that they should be the outcome of a
Yes.
child out of the school:
Correct.
skills, education, and morals.
Knowledge.
Now we started with the morals.
Morals. Yeah.
How are the kids supposed to get that morals or ethics if they are not transferred by their teachers?
Yes.
And there are some bad examples when it comes to teachers and their morals.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me the other day at work that he met one of the teachers, and he was talking to him, and he said, "You've been in the school for many years. Why don't you apply to get promoted and move on to the ministry?" And he said, "I don't want to go to the ministry. I just want to remain in school." And
And why is that?
my friend thought, "Oh, mashallah, he's very dedicated for his job."
Yeah.
And then he said, "No, you know what? Because I have a construction company, and when I am in the school, I get to go out whenever I feel like going
Yes,
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do all my business and sometimes I attend the class, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody asks about me. But
Yeah.
once I move on to the ministry, then it's going to be,
An
very
issue.
critical for
Yeah.
me to run my business." So if you have teachers like these, and
Or-
you expect them to transfer the ethics to the students, what are you expecting from the students?
Exactly. And I think, I think we have to look at this from two perspectives. First of all, the missing out, what we call the missing consequences that will be applied if you break the rules.
Yes.
Okay, at the same time, we want to have this inner, belief system, that you are pushed from yourself. You don't need to have a punishment in order to to do your job.
I'll tell you another story.
Yeah.
I have to mention this story. One of the brothers mentioned to me, he said, "Hatim, when I was in school, we had a headmaster, and he was very strict with us. He always, used force, and he used to beat us if we're late for school and this. And he was like an example or a role model for us. And then one summer, we went with the family to a holiday in Thailand.
Yeah.
And subhanallah, when we were walking in the streets of Thailand, I saw this headmaster, surrounded by two women. He was like hugging two women.
Yeah.
And he's wearing chains and earrings and things like that.
Wow.
And I recognized him. And I went to him and I told him in Arabic, "Assalamu alaikum, Ustad. How are you?
Yeah.
Are you Ustad so and so?"
Yeah.
And the man completely, turned and he said, "Sorry, I don't understand what language you're talking in."
Wow.
He completely ignored and made himself, someone else. So living like a double standard, double
standard.
lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you expect your student after that?
Yes.
They considered you to be a role model, and then suddenly you're a totally different person that you're contradicting the values that you're teaching your students. So the ethics and the morals of teachers are more important than the syllabus itself.
Exactly.
Without even teaching the children, in the syllabus about saying the truth, being honest, no cheating, and so on, you have to set an example. And this also is applicable to the parents as well.
Correct.
You cannot tell your children not to lie, and when someone calls at home, you tell your child, "Tell them he's not here."
Yeah.
So you have to set an example. You have to be a role model. And no matter how hard the ministry tries and puts a syllabus that teaches ethics and morals, we can never harvest the fruits if the teachers themselves, they don't have these morals and And again, we're not generalizing.
No,
There are very good examples
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in our schools.
I mean, I always remember that there are a lot of great teachers that really impacted me as a person, and made me the person who I am today. Okay, so we don't want to generalize, but we're just saying that reality is really is not promising, to be honest. With that, considering that most of our students are studying in public, schools. I mean, some kids might be lucky to be in private schools where the system might be a bit strict, and maybe quality is somehow.
I don't know if I agree with you about the private school, but we get into that.
Yeah,
inshallah.
I mean,
promise you.
we not. Yeah, definitely depends how you look at it. Are you talking about the moral aspect of it? Are you talking about the knowledge? Are you talking about the skills that are emphasized?
Yes.
And of course, every institution will have certain, vision and mission.
That's right.
To achieve. So that will be, like a difficult, thing to decide. But back to the idea of the second element, which is knowledge. Now with this explosion in terms of knowledge, where you can have access to knowledge everywhere from anywhere, there are so many ways, to talk about. To get knowledge. Correct.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like before, where you have to travel, riding a donkey, or a camel from one place to another, in order to get, one hadith or one piece of information. Now with a click,
of a button,
you can get anything you want. So I'm just worried about the idea that we are so concerned about content, as you said. People are working on curriculum and so on, and they forget the most important element, which is what? Morals and ethics and beliefs. And so they should be a strike of a balance between the two. Okay, we need to emphasize, of course, the content, okay, which can be easily nowadays obtained from anywhere.
Yes.
Okay, I remember I learned sometimes, from outside, okay, more than learning from a class, because knowledge is available, everywhere. Maybe because the teacher is very limited, maybe because the teacher does not read a lot, okay? So if I wanted to explore and learn more, I would just read and, Google something or get some information and so on.
That's right.
So knowledge by itself, is not becoming an issue. But selection of that kind of knowledge and putting it together is also an art that we need also to consider when we talk about education. And the third element is the idea of skills, okay? I mean, I think in one of the discussions, I don't remember, but they were talking about the idea of teaching me how to fish, not to give me the fish.
That's
okay.
Right.
So what we lack in a lot of educational institutions or systems, that students are not taught skills that are actually needed in real life. Okay, skills that will be used in any different situations. Okay, skills that will enhance my understanding for things. Okay, for ideas and so on, and it will equip me from any dangerous ideas. Okay, so what I mean is that sometimes what happens is that now there are no borders when it comes to knowledge, correct?
That's right.
I mean, we cannot run away from the fact that that education is or knowledge can be found anywhere, in any format, bad, good, and so on. But if I have the skills to know what is good and what is bad, then it doesn't matter, what kind of knowledge I'm getting. But what we lack in a lot of school or in a lot of colleges and institutions in this region is that students are not equipped with these skills to examine the content, to look at it, and say, what, this is not okay because this clashes with my values, with my belief system. And, I remember in some of the classes that the teachers will tell you, for example, listen, you're not eligible to question me or to say anything, okay? This is a holy piece of information and you have to take it, and then don't discuss it with me. And this is, a very sad thing. Now, if we want to really develop people who are critical thinkers or scientists or scholars, they need to learn the art of questioning. They need to learn the art of critically ask questions and think. Otherwise, we'll have only people who imitate. They just copy and paste. And this is the result. Look at, what's happening around the world now, especially when it comes to the Muslim world. Look what's happening. Because some people don't have the skills to examine a piece of information or a story, or, they just take it at the surface level and they try to interpret it, at this very low level. And as a result, they start doing, crazy things.
Yes, and I just wanted to emphasize on this issue of not allowing students to ask and argue and and get to the information by understanding further. And people might not see this important and the implication of it. But I witnessed something which is happening now. I was called to talk to some of the students from universities, and these students were Omanis, but they were atheists. So the first thing I asked them, when did this start? When did you start becoming an atheist? And you are from a very preserved families in Oman and from good families, and you've never traveled abroad. And they told me, when we were in school, we had questions like, who's God? Why can't we see God? Why is there evil in this world? And so on. And the teachers used to beat us because of these questions. And they didn't allow us to ask these questions. And then later on, we started surfing the net, and we got different answers that convinced us and then made us believe that there is no God.
Especially if you're shallow.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have the tools of examining what is right and wrong, it will be very easy to be invaded intellectually, and as a result, you might be a follower. And this is what I want to emphasize. We are tired of having a lot of followers. We need people who can really lead their own lives, and people who can decide what is good and what is bad for their own decisions and their own lives and so on. This business of, just exporting things from outside and expecting people from outside to do things for us should end. There are a lot of people from this part of the world who are scientists and scholars smart people, okay? So we cannot say that, we are born, stupid. Say you cannot compare us with the West, for example, or with other countries. This is not acceptable.
Allah made us all with the same mind.
Exactly.
And same capabilities.
Exactly. And why, for example, when somebody from this part of the world travels outside and he gets the right environment to learn, that person excels.
And he shines.
It shines. And that person, does miracles. And, people respect that person more and more.
Especially Arabs and Muslims.
Correct.
When they go to the West, for example, they shine. They become superstars because of their ability.
Yes.
And when they come back to their countries, nobody bothers about them.
Nobody appreciates, and values, how great they are. And the thing is, when it comes to the idea of artificial education, okay, I mean, in service, when we say artificial education, we're saying that, it looks like education, but it does not serve the ultimate goal of education.
Okay, Ahmed, we have to take a break, and inshallah we'll continue with this discussion after the break.
In our modern day, values have changed, and many of us became confused with the choices that life has to offer. Join us in this journey, the choices of life that will lead us to an everlasting happiness and will enable us to remain on the straight path. If you have any questions for the show, call us at 246-02058 or text us at 90406. The Choice. from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. this Ramadan, here on the Nation Station.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. Welcome back to your show, The Choice, with me, Hatim Al Absalam, and my dear brother, Ahmed Al Mata'ani. And today we're talking about artificial education versus real education. And we are still at the school level.
Correct.
So where were we, Ahmed?
We were talking about the concept of artificial education. We define it. We said it's the kind of education where actually you feel that there's education, but actually it does not serve the ultimate goal of education.
That's right.
So you'll find a building, you find people working there, but actually do they actually do or work on achieving the ultimate goal of education, which is the idea of facilitating the learning, and the knowledge and the skills and the values and so on. So that's a very dangerous, type of education.
One of the things that really I'm concerned about is the amount of time spent for education.
Correct.
The students, especially in the government schools, they go through very long holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wish to see that one day, instead of giving them like 3 months of long holidays, they should have like a summer camp for 2 months and only 1 month with their families. That will be even better and beneficial, where you can teach them in the 2 months the skills of life and to occupy them, because most of the time many parents, they don't have plans for their children in the summer. Even though if they are planning to travel, it would be like for 10 days or 15 days maximum. So what will happen for the rest of the days in the 3 months? We just sleep, play PlayStation, and do nothing.
I think we were discussing this before, and what actually happening in a lot of schools is that we as educators, and I don't want to generalize also at the same time, but a lot of educators program a lot of our students to become learning or to become learners for the sake of test.
Yes.
So they learn, to pass the test. And this is a very dangerous thing, because the focus here is only on content-based, education, which is a very, very sad thing to...
It's a shallow way to teach.
Okay, but coming back to your point about, the summer vacation, if we instill within the students skills that they have to explore, they have to search, they have to expand their knowledge
and implement they learned
and they can
during the year.
And they see the connection of what they do or what they learn in the school and what's happening in real life, then definitely it doesn't matter how long they stay away from school. Of course it will contribute in giving them a chance to practice and do something about what they learn. But what I'm saying is that if we get it right from the first place, then we don't have to worry about, what they do after that. If they see the value of this learning that's happening inside the classroom to be connected directly and indirectly to real life, then definitely, they will value it even more and more.
Randomly, Ahmed, how many students are really looking forward to go back to school? They can't wait until the summer holidays or the weekend comes. They don't want to go to school. It's hardly to see a student that is really, really like missing school and wants to go back.
But
and we should ask ourselves, why don't they want to go back to school?
Correct.
While when they were younger, before entering school, they were very excited to go to school. But once they go to school, they don't want to go back. And like I remember when we were in school, it was all about passing the exam. Nothing mattered during our course of study except passing the exam. That's the criteria, whether you pass or you don't pass. And the days before the exam, our teacher used to tell us that, study this chapter and this chapter, those are the ones who will come in the exam. What about the rest of the book? What about the rest of the knowledge? So we're only there studying, preparing to answer the questions that are we were told in advance of what areas we're going to be tested.
I've seen this even at the college level, where teachers sometimes, and this is not only in one college, but this is a very common, because I talk to a lot of people from different institutions and they keep saying the same thing, that teachers will assign certain chapters or portions of the content of the course, and then they will come and examine these students, in these particular, covered areas. And so actually, we are not educating, our kids here. What we do is
We're helping them to pass the exams.
Exactly. And we become, this is what I would call it mechanical learning. And actually, if a teacher does that shows he does not respect, the intellectual ability for the students. Because you're telling to the students, indirectly, Hatem, that, look, you're like a machine. I need to instill all what I want, in your mind, and you cannot, you become a passive learner. You expect, to learn, memorize, and you cannot produce. So I feel this is very insulting, and I believe it is very insulting that when you think from the beginning that the kids cannot learn, and you need to spoon feed them, from the beginning, and just give them what you think is good for them, and this is very dangerous.
I remember one of the insults that I got when I was in school. At that time, it was the time of Maharajan, the festival, the National Day.
Yeah.
And we were asked to go to the stadium every single day to practice for this festival. And guess what? The teachers told us, for the students that are going to go for this festival, they're going to get 10 marks on each subject. And for the students who are not going for this festival, they are not going to be awarded a single mark. So you're being penalized for not going to the festival and wanting to be in school to learn. Yeah, what they're saying is they're encouraging you. Yeah, you just have this spare time, go to this festival and practice, and then at the end we'll give you 10 marks.
Yeah,
I did not earn those 10 marks.
Yeah,
I think we have a call.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I just want to say one thing. We have a problem here in Amman schools and colleges.
Yes.
It's like in exams.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Are you a student?
Sorry?
Are you a student?
No, I'm working.
Okay.
Okay, they bring exactly questions from the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if in exams, like when I was in college, I remember they used to bring different questions from the book, and most of the students, like in 30 students, only 7 will pass.
Because the whole exam is based on memorization, you mean?
Students, they memorize. They don't understand.
Yeah. And teachers are contributing to that by putting, questions related to memorization. That's what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And do you think that, this is happening also now or only in the past?
Yes, even now.
Okay. And this is at the college level or also in the schools?
Even at college.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in college, they used to take the dictionaries with them in the class.
Subhanallah.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for
Thank
the
you so
comment.
much.
Yeah.
Now, Ahmed, let's move on to the private schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people would think that, okay, those who are privileged to be in the private schools. And let me tell you some of my experience with the private schools.
Yeah.
First of all, they have become, not all of them, most of them, commercial based.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, every single year the rate goes up.
Okay.
God knows why.
Yeah.
And the level of education that you get for your children is not matched with the amount of money that you are paying.
Mm-hmm.
This is one. And then they might be concentrating in one area, which they would be very strong in that area and neglect the other areas. For example, the Arabic language and the Islamic studies.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my daughter used to study in a private school, and until grade 2, she couldn't read or write.
Wow.
And every single day I used to ask her, when she comes back from school, what did you learn today?
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn today?
Yeah.
What did you learn today? And, some of the time she comes and tells me that, today we did not study anything. And I said, what did you do the entire day? She said, well, the teacher, she played a DVD for us, Ice Age. And I looked at her and I looked at my wife and I said, did I pay 2,000 riyals for you to watch Ice Age? This is crazy. This is madness. And what
Yeah.
is happening in some of these private school is the turnover of teachers
Yeah.
is very high. Every single day
They'll
there's a new face
Mhm.
with a new style of teaching, and the children are becoming more confused and more confused.
lost. Yeah.
And to the extent where they bring teachers who are not qualified.
Mm.
So just because you know how to speak the language, or this is your native language, then
Yeah.
it doesn't make you a teacher.
Correct.
And this reflects in the ability of the children in the English language.
Mm.
So, for example, when I go and complain to the school and tell them that the level of English of my daughter is horrible,
Mm.
and this is supposed to be a private school, and the teacher is a native English speaker,
Yeah.
and they say no, but she's doing good compared to others. What do you mean she's doing good
Yeah.
compared to others?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the incident that also happened is one day I went to the parents teacher meeting, and the Arabic teacher was complaining to me about my daughter, and she said, I have a complaint about your daughter. And I said, what's the complaint? She said that when we do exercise in class, your daughter is the first one to finish, and she goes on to the next chapter, and she does the activities there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had a big question mark on my face. Where's the problem?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
And I said, what's the problem? She
Yeah.
said, no, she has to go in the same pace with the rest of the students.
Mm. You know, that's something to do with the training that the teachers are, they had the teachers had before becoming teachers. And we first of all, Hatem, let's face this as okay. And then the issue is with the qualifying teachers, for example. Now
Yes.
let's look at the idea of employing teachers,
Yes.
or getting people into the field of education or in the field of teaching. I remember, like the worst people will go to the College of Education to become, teachers.
Yes.
Okay. So that's not good. Okay. If we are getting, the worst people from high school joining the colleges of education to become teachers,
They have
then-
to raise the
bar,
the bar
for
the
teachers,
college
okay?
of teachers.
And and then what do you expect if the people who are going there are the worst, in terms of grades, in terms of morals, in terms of attitude? They said, I couldn't get anywhere, so I'm joining the College of
Yes,
Education.
that's what happens.
I used to hear that.
If they don't get into the engineering college,
Yes.
or the science college, or the medical college, then the last resort
Yeah, will be what.
will be education.
And not only that, you need to actually check the performance of every teacher every year. It's not only that I get the job. Maybe I'm good, at the beginning. I went to college, I studied, I got a degree and so on. And then after that, when I joined the field of teaching and I started working, I stopped doing my job. If there isn't a continuous review and checking and holding people accountable for what they do, then definitely this will not lead to anywhere.
We have a call. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, brother?
How are you? I'm Mazhar Mahmoud with you.
Nice to hear from you again, brother Mazhar.
Yeah, a little busy. What to do? Hectic schedule. But
Mashallah.
still, we are hearing your message. It's not like that we are not hearing your message. Mashallah. In
Mashallah.
case if I miss your morning session message, after message, I used to listen in evening.
Alhamdulillah,
After prayer.
alhamdulillah. This program is only meant for all the people who are interested and they want to listen, and we are only continuing because of you. So please do continue listening.
Very good topic. That
Jazakallah
makes us
khair.
to listen. That's the
Jazakallah.
difference. Otherwise, a lot of programs will come. We will
Ham-
not hear so much spending time on that.
Alhamdulillah,
Well,
alhamdulillah.
on the subject of recruiting teachers, I will not agree with you, sir. Because the teacher who recruit another teacher, not by seeing the stupidity or not by seeing the knowledge. Of course, the teacher who recruits another teacher, obviously he keeps in mind the next generation future in their hands. Of course, sometimes rare case, one or two teachers might be unsuccessful. But 98% with my past experience, with our family background of teachers, I'll tell you that teachers are successful. I'll not say that, okay, fine. well, recruiting time, the guys who are getting recruited, it might not, probably they might be not pitching the correct level to the students, how to give the message. That might be the reason students sometimes not catch up, or teacher might not able to catch up the students.
Which is part
ability to
of the
express it.
art of teaching. And actually,
it's art of
if a
teaching,
success
but
if a teacher cannot convey the message correctly, then he should not be called a successful teacher.
Of course,
The
for
whole
one batch
idea, the
I'll
whole
tell
idea is,
you, for one batch, the teacher might not be good.
yeah,
For the second batch, the same teacher might be very good.
yeah,
See, in all the batches, all the students, the teacher is bad. Of course, I'll agree with you. The teacher is wrong.
mm,
The teacher don't have capabilities to teach. For one batch, he's doing very good. For another batch, okay, it happens. Not all students are like mass production. They have got different variabilities.
But brother, how do you rate that this is a successful teacher or not? We are only asking the teachers to be sincere and to have the skill to deliver the message. That's the only thing that we're asking.
But what I wanted to tell you is, teachers, of course, they might be sincere. They also have got a lot of workload, pressure from the management side to cover up the chapters, and they have to close up the subjects within that particular academic year.
Yes.
mhm,
And they have to finish it out. They cannot say that, okay, my children are not understanding, I'll drag this chapter another 2 months. No, they have to close it out. They have to update to the head of the sections, to the head of the management that, yes, and in meantime, they'll take regular intervals of tests.
That's why, brother,
course.
we're not throwing all the blame on the teacher. We're saying the education system as a whole. It's not
Yeah.
about finishing the syllabus in the time. It's
Yeah.
about the quality of education that you're giving to these children. If you are rushing into the studies, and most of the time this is what is happening, we give our children a lot of holidays and then we rush in the syllabus, and at the end of the day our students do not benefit and they do not get the fruits of this education, and then we blame them that, oh, you've done bad in your exam,
Correct.
you're not an A student, and you don't know anything. But it's
I'll
our
agree
fault.
with you, sir.
It's the
Nowadays, what is
system.
happening, teachers will teach only 30%, parents have to teach 70%. They have to spend so much time on the students.
mm,
Now it has become like that. Earlier, 70% teachers used to teach, 30% parents used to spend their time. Because earlier, okay, fine, parents do not have so much time because a lot of kids are there. Now people have got only 1, 2, 3 maximum. Now they are dedicating more time on the children. What is my child is doing? How he is covering his syllabus? How he is doing chapters? Time to time they are in touch with the management. Probably are they are very much keen on every child, what he is doing, what she is doing.
Thank you very much, brother,
Okay,
for your
sir.
input.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I think what we're trying to say is that, you know, the education that we need to offer should have quality, not only quantity, as you said, Hatem. You know, like, it's not about covering only the materials, but, you know, as we said, content can be obtained, for, you know, like, in a way, you know, like, I mean, you can go to the internet, you can talk, you can attend a lecture and so on. But all what we're trying to say here, we need to make sure that the students are not only learning content, but they learn skills that they can use in any different context. And this is what we are lacking in a lot of institutions and colleges, that teachers are not, or educational system does not promote skills-based education.
We have another call. Salam alaikum.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Good?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
Ramadan Mubarak, and I wish that God grant us the ability to complete it in the right way.
Ameen.
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 In fact, I've been hearing this program for quite some time,
MashaAllah.
and today's subject is really interesting, and it tackles the wounds that most of the people are having.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
Me personally, I underwent this experience with one of the schools. Unfortunately, I would like to say that it's pure business.
Mm.
There's nothing to do with the education quality. I mean, the moment you enroll your kids in private school, you are seeking quality of education,
Correct.
not looking to a place where you can buy grades and have the certificates in a good shape.
Subhanallah.
Mhm.
What you're saying
Yeah.
is absolutely right, brother. In
Yeah.
most of the cases.
Mm.
Yeah, no matter how much you pay, whether it's below 1,000 or above 2,000, there are very few selected schools that can deliver the quality of education that the parents are seeking.
And that's why you see a lot of parents shifting their children every semester. They shift from one school to another. It's like trial and error. Every day they hear about a good school, they move to that school, and then it doesn't work out. The next year they follow, and this affects the academic growth of the children because they are not stable. Every single day you have like a new teacher, you have a new syllabus, you have a new system.
You're absolutely right, and I'll give you such a sad story from the school that my kids were in it. The teacher wanted to show them something. She showed them a video of maid beating small kids.
Subhanallah.
Okay, يعني parents has to be careful about this. يعني my kid that day he came and he couldn't sleep till next day morning. I couldn't know what had happened to him. Then he came and he told me the story. I went and I complained, but nothing had happened. There should be a regularity authority or a body where people can go and complain and get their things rectified immediately, similar to the consumer protection and stuff like this, but in education field.
You're absolutely right, and that's a brilliant idea, brother. Thank you so much.
One more thing that parents also they work hard to generate income, and this income when it's going in such education, that's an investment in your kids.
Yes, and most parents are worried about the future of their kids. That's why they spend a lot of money to give them the best education that they didn't have maybe. And most of the time they are disappointed with this education.
My advice from my personal experience after 3 to 4 years, I have, alhamdulillah, I'm blessed with 4 kids.
Alhamdulillah.
I shifted them to government school. Government school is the quality of government school, the establishment, the whole infrastructure for school. Private school is even better than most of the private schools, frankly speaking.
Subhanallah. Thank you.
They are not less than that. The only thing when they say bilingual school, that is the science and the maths in English, and that's it.
Okay.
With some extra, as you just mentioned, some DVD playing like the Ice Age and this kind of, I would call it crap more than education.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. You're absolutely right.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much, brother.
I wanted to share it with you.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
And I would like to share, I have a friend who's a teacher, a foreigner from Canada. He works in one of the private schools that I'm not going to mention. And he told me, Hatim, honestly, the amount of education that we are supposed to give to the children, we are not giving, because we are restricted by the board of the school. And we argue with them and tell them that these people have paid more than 3,000 riyals for their kids. But it is purely business.
Yeah.
You try your level best to accumulate as much as possible from the parents and giving them the minimum. And this particular school, the headmaster could not take it anymore, and he left because of this reason.
Wow.
Because he felt that as a professional in the education system, I cannot bear to watch people being cheated in their children and just stand there and watch.
Yeah. And that's another issue that we have in some private maybe schools or colleges, is that a lot of people think that schools or colleges are a place for entertainment. So they focus a lot on extracurricular activities, which is nothing wrong with that, by the way. You need to have extracurricular activities, but the focus will be more on extracurricular activities, and they forget that there is a very important mission that they have to carry and they have to implement when it comes to education. So this is something that I've noticed in some schools and some colleges, that get them entertained, get them have fun and forget about education. And kids will like it, because they don't want to do anything, that they just want to have fun, enjoy themselves and leave. And the more activities, the more fun activities you have, the more
the key word that you said, Ahmed, is have fun.
Yeah.
I always ask my daughter, what is your favorite class? And she says PE, which is sports and games,
physical education.
And I asked her why not science, why not math? She said, because there we have fun. So I think we need to shift the way of delivering the curriculum to the students and make it interactive. Make it very funny, very creative, in such a way you make it interesting. Even for an adult, if you go to a seminar or something and someone boring standing there delivering a presentation, you would sleep.
Correct.
you wouldn't be interested in what he said, and nothing would go in. But if you have someone who is full of life and
Full of energy.
and they are passionate and they love what they do,
Yeah.
then that will make a big difference.
You see, reminds me with some of the classes that I used to have in high school. You know, like if you go, for example, to Islamic studies class, the teacher will be very rigid, you know, a lot of strict, you know, he will be very strict, and he will not, you know, like he will show you that kind of face, you know, as if you're watching, you know, a thriller, okay? So that's also one thing. But while, you know, I also had a lot of learning in other classes because the teacher was full of energy. He was trying to involve us. He was trying to make us engaged in the discussions. And also he gave us, you know, the ownership of our learning. He used to say something which is very interesting that I didn't find in a lot of the classes, that when it comes to education, okay, education is going to build your future. Education is going to transform you from a normal person to extraordinary person.
Yes.
He kept saying that, you know, all the time. He said, if you want to be so special, you need to take care of your education. You need to really make a lot of effort. You need to pay attention to what the teachers are saying and so on. And, you know, he started comparing between, you know, developed countries and, you know, the third world countries, and said, look, you know, all the things that we are having in our daily lives, okay, are created by people who are not from this part of the world. Why? Because we don't pay attention to education. And there's so much money spent actually when it comes to education in some countries, because they know the value of education. They know that education can transform cultures, you know, from just very small and very, you know, like, less civilized to very civilized, you know.
And this
countries.
feeling, it develops into the students, where they don't feel the value of this education.
Yes.
Today, if you see, the government is spending millions in scholarship and sending students to many parts of the world to study. And most of the time, many students, they complain, I didn't like this college,
Yeah.
I didn't like the country, I didn't like this, and I didn't like that. While in the past, people are fighting and trying their level best to get these scholarships.
Because, you know,
and
these
you
kids-
have it, and
yeah.
then you cannot cope with what is happening.
Exactly.
We have generations of doctors here in Oman who studied in Russia.
Yeah.
Just imagine, they had to study medicine in Russian, so they had to learn the language, and life was so difficult at that time.
Cold,
in the
you
Soviet
know,
Union,
culture, yeah.
it's cold, the culture, there is no family, there is
Yeah.
no friend, and sometimes you spend 7-8 years not coming back to your hometown,
Correct.
and they made it. Well, now everything is available, everything is easy, and we're only complaining.
Yeah, because, you know, from the first place, education did not serve, okay, its ultimate, you know, message, which is what to make these people are capable to handle different situations. You know, as I said, you know, we should not only focus on content, we need to focus on skills, we need to focus on transforming these people to become critical thinkers, problem solvers. You know, education has to really change in a way that people will not say, you know what, I'm going there, you know, to have fun, or you know what, you know, education is a way to run away from home and the problems and issues and so on.
The other thing, Ahmed, is accreditation
Yes.
of these courses, especially in colleges.
Yeah.
I came across people who have completed their degrees here in Oman,
Yeah.
and they completed their masters,
Yeah.
and trust me, Ahmed, they cannot write a single sentence. How
Yeah.
do these people graduate?
You know,
How do these people graduate?
you know, it's
The
really
concept of copy paste in assignments, I think that it needs to
yeah,
stop.
you know, it's a culture now.
It's a
Unfortunately.
culture,
And you know,
and
it's really
no one can do anything about it.
And the other thing is that Hatem, what is really makes it even worse is the idea that we are in a country which is a Muslim country, where these values of cheating and plagiarism and, you know, are not allowed at all. And this is part of our values, part of our principles, okay? And still people go and do it. That means there is something wrong. That means something that we don't discuss, we don't talk about, which is the moral aspect of education.
Yes.
Now, you know, people think that they just need to go to education to pass a test, but they need actually to walk around and deal and behave, you know, using all these morals in their daily life. And back to the idea of cheating, for example. We have institutions, as you said, they don't hold people accountable. and they're becoming commercially based institutions, and all what they care about, you pay the fees or not. And if these institutions are not held accountable, then nothing will move, nothing will
I think
change.
it starts also from home.
Yes.
I remember, Ahmed, my parents taught me that cheating is equivalent to drinking alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So from an early age, you know that this is like a red line. And I remember I had a lot of enemies in school.
Yeah.
When it comes to some of the subjects that I'm good at, I never share my paper with anyone
Yeah.
during exam.
Yeah.
And they would call me like names, you traitor, you
Yeah.
fine, and
Yeah.
this, you're not a good friend, and
then
so on.
You
But
don't
to me,
cooperate. Yeah,
it
yeah.
was very clear
Mhm.
that I am not going to look at anyone else's paper,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to show my paper to anyone else. Everyone has to work their way through their own effort.
And
But today it becomes piece of
becomes,
cake.
Yeah.
They,
And the assignments are exchanged, among the students in different colleges. In fact, it's becoming a business. There are offices
Yes.
that
They can
around,
do the assignment
they can
on
do
your behalf.
assignments and so on. And the assignment, would be done once, and it will be submitted to different schools, or maybe sometimes in the same school to different teachers. Okay.
Subhanallah.
And teachers cannot recognize that this is, an assignment.
we are
we're done.
really fooling ourselves.
Exactly. And if a teacher cannot identify whether this is your work or not, then this teacher does not deserve to be in that institution. You know your students, you know their capabilities, you know their talents, you know their weaknesses, and you are coming and telling me that I want to give that student an A for work that he or she doesn't do. There must be something wrong with that teacher. And the idea of accountability,
Because teaching becomes just a job, Ahmed.
yeah,
It's not raising a generation.
yeah,
It is not building a good
nation,
citizen,
correct.
a nation.
Yeah.
No, it's about I'm just being paid salary to do
Yes,
this, so
yeah.
I'm just doing it.
And the other thing that contributing to this kind of culture is the idea that people want to get, that piece of paper. There's this culture now. I want to go to what they call sometimes so easy college, okay? Because I just need to get that piece of paper handed to my boss, and I get promoted. Yeah, this is very, we cannot deny this. This is very, if you talk to a lot of people around here, said, what, I just want to go to this college because the standards are very easy. Okay, they can help you. Even they manipulate the terms. Now cheating becomes
help
what?
you.
Help. And this is very dangerous. And and if you try to fight such a phenomenon, then people start
You'll
saying,
be outcast.
yes, and people say, trying to be too strict, or they're trying to use terminologies. You don't have mercy. You don't, look at the connotation that they're using nowadays. Okay, they're trying to make something bad seem to be good, and vice versa. And this is very dangerous. If institutions and people who are working in these institutions are not held accountable, we'll continue to have this kind of education, and nothing will change. We're all the time complaining about not having scholars or scientists because of this.
And the worst part is that some of these teachers and lecturers who are highly educated, and they have it all,
Yeah,
but they still can't think with their mind and their heart and do the right thing,
yeah,
because these are work ethics.
yeah.
If you don't have them, then your student won't have them as well.
Exactly. Because we always talk about the idea of role models, okay? And if your teacher does not translate these role models, in his attitude, in his behavior, then you will not get anybody.
And then at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we wonder why our students don't respect our teachers.
Correct. Yeah.
How would they respect if the teacher does not have the ethics and the morals of
Yeah.
the job?
And by the way, students are very smart, I'm telling you. But they're using this kind of intelligence, okay, in a negative way. For example, they will try to find, for example, from the teacher what is required from them, okay? And also they try to find ways in order to get things, in a very easy format. And that shows, once, believe me, I caught a student cheating, and the effort that he has put into the assignment, okay, could have been used in producing, a
super
work,
assignment.
by him or herself, because the techniques that he used in order to come up with this piece of work, okay, you will be surprised. You say,
Subhanallah.
this guy is genius. Because he was trying to make sure that I could
You
not
could never find out.
no, and I mean, I was fascinated by his intelligence, but I was very sad to know that he used his intelligence to do something actually bad, and it clashes with the Islamic teachings. So we need to make sure that ethics, okay, morals, are always integrated in our teaching, in our way of dealing with the students and so on.
Ahmed, do some students bribe the teachers?
Yeah, this
So
is
what sort of things they give to their teachers? How do they approach the teacher and tell them?
well, it depends on the teacher. Sometimes some teachers will get money from the students. Okay, some of them they might get items. Okay, like
Like a phone or
a
something?
phone, or a gift, a cologne, or something like that. Okay, I remember one of the students was telling me, she was saying that I used to bring things for teachers, okay, to make sure that I pass every course.
She used to tell you that.
Yes. Okay. And and she said, and then she came to a college, and then to a different college. She moved from one college to another, and then when she went to that college, she thought that this is a very common thing.
Common
Okay,
system.
so she went and she talked to one of the teachers, trying to bribe that teacher, and the teacher was, very strict and so on. And then she said, that was the first time. Then I realized that, what I was doing was wrong, because the first time I tried it was only because I was desperate. I didn't know what to do, and then when the teachers accepted it, it becomes like
Normal.
it becomes normal, and I thought that it's okay. I mean, what's worse when it comes to bribing is that when people try to go to the other extreme, where they try to offer even things which are not actually ethical. And you know what I mean.
Yes,
They try even to offer themselves. Sometimes even sometimes they offer things which are not allowed. Items which are not allowed at all. Like alcohol or whatever. Something like that. I heard the stories that I was shocked that students. First of all, you as a student who is a Muslim, you're not supposed to go and get such a thing. Okay, of course you're not drinking it. But just getting it, and give it to another person itself is
a sin.
It's a sin. So, I mean, look, this is because of the absence of morals and ethics. And if we don't, emphasize them in the way we teach, the way we talk, the way we deal with the students, then where are they going to get, all these values? Back to the idea of connecting what we learn to what's actually needed in real life.
Ahmed, let us move on to the consequences
Yeah.
of this education system. What are the fruits that we are harvesting now?
Passive learners, people who cannot produce, and this actually, impacted the economy of the country. Because let's say you graduated from a college or from a university and so on. The institution that will take you as an employee, what's going to happen? They will have to pay more money for training you.
Because they thought you're competent, but
Yeah.
you turned up to be
And
not.
you know how much money already paid actually by the government to educate that person, for that institution, okay, to educate you. And then you know what we're going to get? We're getting nothing. We're getting people who are passive. They have nothing. They are not knowledgeable. And people
With an attitude as
with
well.
attitude, okay? And this is not good. And of course, we always try, we always compare ourselves, with other countries that are very developed. The number of scholars, the number of scientists is very small. And then, we always talk about...
We're at the back of the
Yeah,
race.
exactly. Like I was checking, like the list of institutions that, on the top for education. And I wanted, one day, I hope, to see that's happening, that the first 10 countries, okay, that they're top in education, I could see one Arab country, okay, in the lead of this top.
So in the top 100, are we there anyway?
Yeah, I mean, we have some countries, in terms of math and science, because they have all this international tests, and we have some countries actually from the Arab world that competing and so on. But still, it's really ironic, to be honest, that in a culture where education is a very important, element, and the first teaching that was communicating to us and to our prophet, okay, to educate and to read. And we end up having people who do not value education. This is very sad, and we need to reflect. We need to go back and say we are here not to criticize, but we just in order to show reality. And if we don't change, and if we don't do something about it, Hatem, we are just participating actually in damaging, generations. And then what would you expect? I mean, I also hold students accountable for not taking the effort and
Of course,
and
not
the
all
work
students. There are super students
yeah.
out there.
But at the same time, if we don't plan things ahead of time, and also we don't, evaluate the situation in a critical way, definitely we'll end up having, people who are immoral, people who are having bad attitude, people who are not productive, and so on. And then we should not blame anybody else. This culture of, saying, oh no, the West are different or whatever, they're different and so on, and we started comparing and doing nothing about it. We should learn from these people. Yeah,
that's right.
If there is something good that we need to adopt, we need to integrate in our style and so on. And this culture of not promoting critical thinking, I always say that, to my students, okay, there isn't a correct answer, okay, for this class. I teach critical thinking, and I tell them all the time, question things, okay? Try to find, evidence. Try to find, supports, for your argument and so on. And that, helps them, to think outside the box. They always try to bring, things and issues that we know we face in the society. Maybe the other day I talked to you about, an incident, okay, that happened, where students try to talk about a very sensitive topic, like homosexuality. And the response, from, they had a survey, they wanted just to say, because whether we like it or not, okay, homosexuality concept in terms of acceptance started to become a normal thing. And this is very clear, when you go and watch internationally, and even here, look at the movies, for example. They try to have all these messages, okay? Oh, there's a homo, for example, in the movie. There's a lesbian, okay? And so on. And, people started to accept these, ideas, okay? And started to say, it's okay, what's wrong with that, and so on. Okay.
It's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice, and, we should not talk about it. People let them do whatever they want and so on.
It's their country.
Yes.
It's their life.
Yes. I mean, I don't have a problem. They can do whatever they want. But my issue is that when you try to impose a concept that I don't believe in on me, and you're trying to make me accept it. I mean, it's okay. You want to do your thing, you do your thing, okay? But don't try to make me accept something that I don't believe in. And this is what has been, dedicated and propagated in a lot of, social media and so on. So the whole idea was, to address the challenges. So, I mean, I was shocked, with the reaction of some teachers when they started, degrading, the students, talking about a sensitive, taboo topic, in the society. How are we gonna solve the problems if we don't talk about our issues?
And if you don't give them the answers, they'll find it somewhere else.
Exactly. And then said, why, we don't have a kind of intellectual conversation to know what is right and what is wrong. The whole idea was to go and talk to people who are intellectuals, people who are knowledgeable, people who are educated, and these people will learn through this kind of dialogue and conversation and so on. This is how we learn. I mean, the system has to change to give a chance for people to not only focus on content, but on skills and what we call them soft skills. Soft skills, we're talking about problem-solving approach, we're talking about critical thinking, communications, okay,
dealing with difficult people.
Difficult people, and also the idea of being,
dealing with
stress, being also able to adopt and also adapt to different situations.
Team building.
These are skills that we need to emphasize and we need to integrate. If I teach, for example, science, I need to make sure that the assessment tools that I'm using should focus on that area.
Yes.
Team building skills, okay, communications, and also the other skills, to critically think and so on, problem solving and so on. So I think we need to stop looking at education as only delivery of messages and content, and we have to go beyond that.
Now, Ahmed, the way forward. We have spoken about the artificial education, and the total opposite is the real education.
Yes.
So we'll not go into details about the real education because you have explained many parts of it.
Yeah.
But now, what is the way forward? What do we need to do?
Okay, first of all, as we mentioned some of the points, we need first of all to make sure that we need to identify our weaknesses. I mean, we're not perfect, and there's nobody who's perfect anyway. If you go even in these big institutions or these big countries that they're very leading in education, they
have shortfalls.
They have shortfalls, and they have issues, and they have weaknesses, but they go and identify them.
But the difference between us and them is they admit
that they have issues,
and they rectify and develop and improve.
Exactly. And then we evaluate the situation, for example, and then we can suggest, for example, what is good and what is bad for the plan, because you cannot bring a system from outside and expect this system to be implemented entirely without considering the culture, considering the people, and so on, age. There are so many factors that you have to consider. And of course, you need to
resources.
Yes, you need resources. You need to have the right people to implement this kind of education.
I heard of a school in London, which is a very famous Jewish school.
Yeah.
And the minimum qualification for a teacher to be in that school is PhD.
Wow.
And that's why most of the prime ministers and presidents and politicians and very influential people graduated from that school.
Wow. Yeah.
Because you have that quality of faculty, of teachers.
And you see that the thing is, this is also another myth that a lot of let's say planners in institutions think that at lower levels, okay, you need to put anybody. Yeah. Just put somebody who has a diploma or somebody who just graduated or somebody, and for higher levels you need to have somebody who's really, really qualified. Okay, but it should be the way around, or they should be a balance. Balance. Across the board, you need to have people who are qualified, people who are competent in what they do, and then definitely we'll have very good educational. The results will have a very good educational system. And of course, we need to look at the best practices around the world, and
because for sure, many other countries out there or educational institutions have gone through the same cycle.
Yeah.
They have tried many things, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
We need just to follow some of the good examples out there.
And of course, like our ultimate goal, okay, from this education system should be geared towards the idea of that we need to graduate good citizens. And when we talk about good citizens, we're talking about people who are good when it comes to, following the rules. They are creative. Yeah, they are also respecting the rules. And also the people who can be very productive, when it comes to the society. And also the idea of good citizen is, to be knowledgeable about your area. And you always seek knowledge. It doesn't stop, by the end of your graduation, but, it's a continuous process.
I only came across one school which gives a huge award every end of the year for the best student in morals and ethics.
Yeah.
And I think this should be implemented in other schools to encourage students to have morals and ethics.
Yeah. So I think, we just need to, we're doing a lot of good things. We're not saying that, the situation is...
But we want what is
best.
We
want actually what is best, because, I really feel very frustrated sometimes when I go to institutions and schools where I find that there are a lot of issues that can be solved easily, okay? If we have the right plan, if we have the right evaluation, if we have the right assessment, and the idea of accountability, okay? I would call it religious accountability and also administrative accountability, so that if you're doing good as a teacher, okay, or as an administrator in an institution, you need to make sure that you get rewarded. And the way around, if you're not doing your job, that person has to be really held accountable for not doing the right thing.
Mr. Ahmed Matani, thank you very much for being with us on the show. Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum, and see you tomorrow, inshallah.